And the White House says it'll now decide which media outlets have full access to President Trump and not the press corps. This is Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt read part of a judge's ruling allowing a ban on the Associated Press to stay in place for now.
Asking the President of the United States questions in limited spaces, such as the Oval Office in Air Force One, is a privilege that unfortunately has only been granted to a few. It is not a legal right for all.
The White House Correspondents Association ripping the move, saying in part that it, quote, tears at the independence of a free press in the United States. It suggests the government will choose the journalists who cover the president. In a free country, leaders must not be able to choose their own press corps. I want to now bring in NewsNation media contributor Colby Hall on this one. Colby, I know you've got some opinions here. Press is not happy about this move. They're sounding the free alarm speech, but is this just sour grapes, or is there a real problem with Trump deciding who has up-close access to him?
I think the Trump White House is literally sticking their thumb in the eye of the White House Correspondents Association. They're at first move, they're trying to, it's a power move to try to sort of punish the press. But, I think there is a decent argument to be made that they're trying to control their messaging by choosing who gets to cover them in the pool. Again, this isn't just who's in the briefing, but who, not every reporter gets to go with the president wherever they travel. So there's a rotating pool of reporters that gets elected. And who gets elected is typically based on who's in the district all the time, who's part of the White House correspondence, who pays dues. Yeah. And so, it does flout 100 years of bipartisan process. And I think it flouts that, and it sets up, I think, a dangerous precedent moving forward.
Yeah, I know Caroline Leavitt said the changes would, to your point, rotate traditional outlets from the group, include some streaming services as well. If this ends up truly being a rotation, which we'll have to wait and see what rotation fully means, could this actually be a good thing, getting more voices, more diverse voices in and out of the White House?
I mean, theoretically, of course. I think there's, the framing by the White House is very, very positive. But she said that this gives the power back to the people. It really gives the power to the White House. And I think what really comes out of this is who abides by journalistic standards and covers news by fact-based journalism, and who is opinion hosts that would be very pro-Trump and, streaming service or that don't abide by those standards. Now, that could be very sort of beneficial for the Trump administration. But if sort of Biden were to do this and say that only sort of pro-Biden outlets could cover him, there would also be outrage, right? So this is the slippery slope that we're creating a precedent where suddenly the people that are in the news that are supposed to be asked tough questions can choose who's asking the questions. Therein lies the real concern. So I think near term, we won't see a big difference. But again, theoretically, it's a fight that didn't really need to happen. And, free press is a huge part of our democracy, and this erodes.
Yeah. You bring up Biden. I know back in, 2021, some reporters ripped President Biden's team for limited access to his Q&As. The White House at the time cited spacing constraints. Has this always been a running tug of war, or is the media's outrage just greater now because it's President Trump?
I think it's, there's always supposed to be tension between the fourth estate, right? Like there's a famous line that's, writing about something about someone famous and power, what they want isn't journalism, that's publicity, right? So there should always be some tensions. That's the whole point. I think the complaints with Biden was that he just wasn't ever, he get very few. He was so old that he just had very little access. And yes, Biden administration deserved criticism for limiting access, but this is the White House choosing who they're going to, report to them. And the pool has conservative-leaning outlets. There are reporters from Newsmax and Fox News who don't go out of their way to say positive things about Biden. But so I think this is we're going to keep talking about this, and I think it sets a tone moving forward. For the news consumer, I don't know if there's a big difference that we'll see immediately, but over time, we'll know more.
We'll wait to see what this new system is about to look like. Colby Hall, as always, appreciate your time.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.